Happy New Year! Welcome to 2024, people. Let's hope it's better than 2023. Couldn't be much worse. Happy New Year and welcome to my now traditional, hey, this is the fourth time I've done it, so it's a tradition, overview of the previous year in terms of the new crap that I watched. So let's get started with back to the beginning of the year. I guess the first thing I would have watched would have been that 90s show on Netflix. Now, I loved that 70s show. The last season was complete shite, and it's rather a shame that certain people have kind of tainted the thing at this point. Isn't it always the way these days? But I loved that 70s show. The trailer didn't look too bad, and in spite of my at this point predictable oh fuck no to any kind of revival or sequel or remake or reboot or whatever the hell they want to call it, I thought I'll give it a shot. It was crap, it was rubbish. Some of the cameos from the old cast were fine. I thought Topher Grace slipped straight back into character absolutely perfectly and doesn't seem to have aged in the slightest since 2006 either. Unfortunately, I found the new cast bland as fuck. As some people said, it was more like watching a fucking Disney show than the kind of edgy show that that 70s show used to be. It was crap. I didn't like it. I'm sorry. I gave up after an episode and a half. No, just go away and leave me alone. The next thing I saw would have been Only Murders in the Building. Now, this has been going for a couple of years, but I didn't have access to it on streaming. I actually picked up a foreign Blu-ray of the first season. It's got Steve Martin and Martin Short in it as a pair of out-of-work old lovies who live in the same high-rise apartment building, both addicted to true crime podcasts, as is a young neighbour played by Selena Gomez. But when one of their neighbours supposedly commits suicide, they become convinced that they're actually in a real murder case. I really enjoyed the first season. It was a little bit more serious than I expected, in that it did take the murder mystery seriously, which is good, but it was as much fun as you would expect, and it was really enjoyable just to spend some time with, old favourite faces like Steve Martin and Martin Short in something new and good, which is relatively rare. That being said, I think it was kind of a one-season premise. Season 2 was nowhere near as good. It was still watchable. It had some good bits in it. Some of it was just really, really stupid, and it was kind of messy. And honestly, I gave up after about 1.5 episodes of Season 3. It was really bad, Season 3, which is a shame. I loved Season 1. But yeah, this seems like it's something that was a one-season premise at best, if not like a movie premise that would have been better as something, an 80s or 90s movies with those guys in it. It's just like so many of these streaming shows, they're not really shows, and they go on way too long. Shame. I did love Season 1, but yeah, ultimately I was disappointed by where it went. Oh, and talking of disappointments, I got it on DVD. I don't know where the hell it's supposed to be streaming. I made the mistake of getting the Pretty Little Liars spin-off Original Sin. Spin-off in the sense that it's got fuck all to do with it, basically. Nothing to do with it at all, other than a villain that calls themselves A. But aside from that, it's absolutely unrelated in every way. I watched about 1.5 episodes before completely giving up. The new cast did not hold a candle to the original cast. The one character who talked in nothing but fucking Twitter speak made me want to throw something at the fucking screen. And it also seemed to take itself very, very seriously, with none of the wit or the self-awareness of the original. I just couldn't take anymore. And if you think turning off through in episode 2 is too quick, I was interested in the original show after episode 1. I was just like, no, this is shit. This is just shit. It's charmless shit. March, I went to the cinema for the first time in 3 years. Basically, I went because it was my birthday and I wanted to get the fuck out of the house. And the only thing playing that was even remotely interesting was Scream 6. Yeah, I think the only other thing on was like bloody Ant-Man and Quantum Mania. I was like, no. Scream 6 was not bad, actually. I hated Scream 5, and if it hadn't been my birthday, I probably wouldn't have bothered going to see it. Because I thought 5 was terrible. 6 was much better. I guess partly because at least the motive made a lick of sense, and there weren't any middle-aged heterosexual men that left for them to run down and destroy. It was fun. There were some good scenes. Jenna Ortega is again the only one of the new cast to make any real impression. It was okay. I enjoyed it. I didn't mind it at all. Better than I expected by some degree. I guess the next new thing that I would have watched would have been the Luther movie, The Fallen Son. I've never really watched the show. I've seen a couple of episodes of season 1 on streaming. It didn't really grab me enough to keep watching it, to be honest. But this was fun. Luther's disgraced ex-cop at this point, and he breaks out of prison to nail a serial killer played by Andy Serkis. That was it was pretty decent. It was an entertaining enough thriller, even for somebody like me who has very little experience of the show. The next thing up would have been The Night Agent on Netflix, which was a solid enough kind of espionage, treachery thriller. I enjoyed it. It was decent. Again, I wouldn't necessarily write home about it, but it was decent. The next one I guess I saw would have been Megan, which I rented on YouTube, which is about a life-size robot doll toy with AI that's supposed to give companionship and guidance to kids. Of course, it doesn't quite go that way. I thought it was okay, but despite the hype, I didn't think it was anything more than that. Honestly, I thought the first half was actually better than the second, as it had some kind of actually quite unnerving ideas and moments, as well as some decent commentary on our obsession with and reliance on technology. But in the second half, when it just went for kind of cliched slasher stuff, I just thought it got a bit silly. It was okay. I guess the next one would have been in August, when I saw Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 at the cinema. Honestly, I kind of was disappointed by this. Of the Mission Impossibles, I still think the first one's the best, followed by Rogue Nation. I thought what was it called? Fallout was pretty decent. This one was just sort of okay. There were some great sequences. The extended car chase was probably the highlight, and in my opinion, there was a total For Your Eyes Only homage in there, both in the type of car that they were driving, and Tom Cruise actually did like a Roger Moore like double take eyebrow raise at one point, which was totally ripped from For Your Eyes Only. I'm absolutely sure. I haven't heard anybody else mention this, but I'm sure that was a For Your Eyes Only homage. And it was fun to have Kittredge back from the original, but honestly, I just didn't find the story that interesting or compelling. I was also pretty pissed off by one story development, which was not earned in any way and felt really lazy. And bugger me, it's long. It's like 2 hours and 45 minutes. It's like enough already. It's like, like I said, it was okay. It got to like 1 hour and 40, and I'm like, okay, I'm ready for this to end now. I'd like to go pee, and my dog waiting at home would probably like to as well. And then there's another fucking hour. Like, enough already. I don't understand why every bloody movie has to be nearly 3 hours at this point. It's ridiculous. Oh, well, honestly, I came out thinking it wasn't bad. The more I think of it, the less I kind of like it. It was disappointing. After this, like September-ish, I guess, I kind of subscribed to Disney Plus, mainly to try and make sure I could get it on my TV, to supposedly watch Doctor Who in November. Ha ha, we all know how that worked out. One of the first things I gave a try to was Werewolf by Night. I didn't like it. I turned it off about halfway through. I know this got good reviews. I felt it was way too forced and mannered and just could not get into it. So I was disappointed by that. But one thing I did watch, which I did enjoy, was the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special, which was actually really, really fun. Very funny, quite touching. That was actually a really good sort of Christmas special. I really enjoyed it. I wish they'd put these fucking things out on physical media. It's getting ridiculous at this point. I don't want to have to subscribe to Disney Plus just to watch that, on a future Christmas. It's fucking absurd. Give us the fucking Blu-ray, Disney. It's not fucking around. Nobody wants Disney Plus. Get over it. Anyway, the other thing I saw, which I didn't go to the cinema, partly because everyone was fed up at Marvel at this point, and partly because, again, the length. Over 2.5 hours practically. No, go away. I saw Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I thought the final of this trilogy was a lot of fun. Better than I was expecting, to be honest, particularly with the running time. I don't know if I would have been as bad as Mission Impossible in the cinema, but at home it kept me engaged and interested throughout. Again, I might have flagged if I'd seen it at the cinema rather than at home, but I did really, really enjoy it. And at this point, this was certainly the best new film that I'd seen to this point in 2023. True, I've only seen about 4 at this point, but there you go. Something not quite new, but newish, was a 2021 horror flick that I saw on Shudder called The Sadness, which is a very extreme horror about Taiwan falling victim to a rapidly spreading pandemic that turns its populace into lust-fueled homicidal maniacs. This was entertaining, if disturbing, and I have to say that the uber violence, the sadistic sexual undertones, and the general bleakness and nihilism means I can't say it's going to be one that I'm going to be watching again anytime soon. A bit more extreme than I like my horror, I have to be honest. The next thing would have been the brand new Babylon 5 animated TV movie, The Road Home. I thought this was much Hollywood. I thought it was a bit of an odd one. The main question I had after watching it was kind of, why? I don't want to be too hard on it. It wasn't bad, and it's fast-paced and watchable enough. And the animation was pretty decent, and certainly better than what we get from the BBC with Doctor Who releases, even though some of the likenesses are a bit off. Of course, many of the actors have passed away, and their voice replacements varied wildly. Delen's caught some of her gentler cadence, but none of her steel. I thought Sinclair was very good, and you could have been fooled into thinking it actually was Michael O'Hare. Garibaldi was average. The worst, I would say, was Jakar, who doesn't look or sound anything like himself, which is a really odd decision. I thought the best by far was Zathras. I actually thought it was the original actor. I didn't even realize the original actor had passed away. So kudos to whoever voiced him, because that sounded like Zathras to me. Bruce Boxleitner and Peter Jurassic recreated Sheridan and Londo very easily. That being said, I have to say that Claudia Christian now sounds so unlike Ivanova that you'd be forgiven for thinking that was a different voice actor, because it's like, is that actually her? It doesn't sound like her. Above and beyond all of this, though, I didn't really understand the point of this. Babylon 5 was touted as a single story told across 5 years. And it got those years, and it ended pretty definitively. It just seems a bit late in the day to try and do something new with it now, and a little bit redundant. As I said, the new movie is not bad, but it just seems kind of pointless. If you want a nostalgia rush, just go watch the original show again. And certainly the idea that some were touting that, because we get a parallel universes, and we kind of end the story in one of these parallel universes after our Sheridan has gone home. And there's some suggestion of doing more with that and basically retelling the story in a different way in this parallel universe. It just, why? I just don't really see the point. But that's just me. Also in September, I saw Star Trek Picard Season 3. I actually got a 7 days free trial on Paramount Plus, binged watched it, and then cancelled it. Because I just wanted to watch Season 3, and I didn't feel like checking out $70 for the fucking Blu-ray, certainly not without seeing it, so screw it, I thought I'll see this. Now, I've said before, I have seen very little of New Trek, because the majority of it looks and sounds utter shit. But this actually got generally good reviews, and from the trailers it looked like Star Trek far more than most of the ones I've seen. So I was like, okay, I'll give this a shot. I actually thought it was really good. I really enjoyed it. I liked the overall story. I really enjoyed how they kind of built it up over the course of the thing, and how the old TNG crew are kind of reintroduced slowly but surely over the course until you get to the last few episodes where it's the old crew on the old Enterprise having to save the universe one last time. I really enjoyed it. I know some people are going, member berries. I don't mind. This felt like the end to the Next Generation. Now, I know some people say just end it with all good things, but it didn't end with all good things. It carried on with the crappy movies, and they were mostly crappy, and Nemesis was fucking dreadful. This is a much better ending than Nemesis. I really enjoyed it. I was kind of surprised by how much of a DS9 influence there was in this, as the main villains, at least up until the last few episodes, the main villains were the freaking changelings, who were never even in Next Generation, so that was kind of a surprise. I actually really enjoyed Season 3. If you've avoided, like I have, most of New Trek because it looks shit, I'd recommend it. I can't say I really saw or heard anything that was particularly offensive. The characters were all treated with respect. They all felt in character. And it was just a really fun adventure. Really, really nice. I really enjoyed it. One of the last time I went to the cinema in 2023 was for Thanksgiving. I was going to say the Marvels, but yeah, I know you wouldn't believe me. I saw Thanksgiving a year after a fatal stampede at a Black Friday event. Someone starts going after revenge against those he deems to be responsible. This was a really enjoyable throwback slasher flick that does exactly what it says on the tin, and that's why it works. Cute girls, gorily over the top murders, some dark comedy, and a maniac walking around in a mask. There's a reason for the formula, folks. It works, especially if you do it well, and this did it well. I had a really fun time with Thanksgiving, and I will definitely be picking it up on Blu-ray. Kicking off my festive movie viewings in December was basically a brand new movie to me, which was It's a Wonderful Knife on Shudder. Basically, a teenage girl, Winnie, and her brother are attacked on Christmas Eve by a masked killer that's been stalking her small town and has already murdered her best friend. In the fight, Winnie manages to kill the killer, who turns out to be a sleazy local real estate mogul played by Justin Long, who's been trying to buy up half the town. But a year later, Winnie's life seems to be going rather downhill. She's still not gotten over the death of her best friend, has failed to get into her dream college, and she's just found out her boyfriend has cheated on her and then dumps her for another of her friends. And in a moment of self-pity, she wishes that she was never born, and is instantly flung into a nightmarish parallel reality where no one knows her, her brother is dead, her family's fracturing, the killer is still killing, and Justin Long now owns almost the entire town and is even mayor. This fun, festive slasher flick basically does... This is basically does... And It's a Wonderful Life with the same kind of Happy Death Day did with Groundhog Day being a slasher version. This has got mixed reviews, but I had fun with it. It's even got kind of the same trope as Happy Death Day of a virtual stranger being the only one to believe the lead girl and becoming her main ally / confidant / potential romantic interest. Only this time, it's another girl, Bernie, a lonely and isolated girl who's been outcast and declared a weirdo by her school for no apparent reason. I must admit the relationship between the two girls gives the movie a bit more heart than I was expecting, even though I wasn't entirely sure for a long time that I wasn't reading too much into it. I do tend to see lesbians everywhere. As it turned out, I was right. It's just there was something about Winnie's utterly blasé displays of physical affection and Bernie's awkwardly nervous reaction to them that kind of gave me a bit of a Sky and Lana vibe, and I wasn't wrong. And honestly, this kind of carries the movie through some of its flaws, like the weird bit in the climax that suddenly out of nowhere implies that Long somehow has some kind of supernatural power over the townsfolk. I don't know where that came from. It seems really out of place. And what? What? But overall, this was a feel-good, festive slasher, and I enjoyed it for that. Honestly, it was better than I expected, and if it gets a physical Blu-ray release, I will probably buy it. Why not? Now then, we all know... Oh yes, and there's one more thing. The big moment you've all been waiting for, I'm sure. The Doctor Who event of the year that I saw in November, baby. No, actually, yeah, beginning of December. The Underwater Menace animation. Well, what else would I be talking about? Honestly, I thought this was pretty crap, to be honest with you. I used to really like episode 3 when that was all we had, and it was on the Lost in Time set. I always found that episode really fun, especially with Zaroff. When we found episode 2, I was kind of disappointed by that when we saw that, because it just didn't seem as fun as the third episode. I'd kind of hoped that the Underwater Menace might have been like the Horns of Nymon of the 60s, and I mean that as a compliment. The second episode didn't seem to really indicate that. Watching the whole thing, and I watched the live action episodes with the animated black and white versions because it seemed fucking... I don't understand the point of watching animations of episodes that exist. It just seems bizarre to me, especially when it's half the story. I'm afraid to say I didn't think it was very good. I actually found it kind of boring. Joseph First is still funny, but he's actually not in it enough. He really needs to have been in it more, because the other supporting characters are really boring and really dull. We needed more of First hamming it up, because he is very funny, and when he's on screen, he's just not on screen enough to save a really bizarre and otherwise kind of boring story. The animation was the usual Scooby-Doo you come to expect these days. Apparently the days of even trying to generate some actual atmosphere like the moon base, and apparently those days are long gone, and we're just stuck with this style now forever and ever, amen. I found this really crap, to be honest. As the only real kind of Doctor Who event of 2023, it just puts the capper on 2023 really being a thoroughly shite anniversary. The worst we've ever had. Very disappointing. I'm just like, yeah, okay, whatever. Sorry, that's a bit of a downer, isn't it, for the end of this video? This is actually coming in as the shortest year overview I've done, I think, which is probably an indication of how little there was this year that I give a crap about. Look, there was some good stuff. Again, Thanksgiving, Picard season 3, Guardians 3, the holiday special. I know that was actually last year, but it was this year for me. Scream 6 was okay. It's mostly, aside from those highlights, it's mostly been mediocre shit, or I just don't care and I'm not interested anyway, which is unfortunate. But again, there were a couple of decent things. Not my favourite year, it has to be said. Let's hope 2024 is better. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed my annual ramble over the year's nonsense. Back to the normal from next week. Thanks for listening. Talk to you again soon. Happy New Year.